That last question that you discussed there in your cruise, has God ever spoken to you? I reckon most of you either said no or said, I don't know, IDK. But I want to disagree with you. You see, the way that we communicate, and remember, we are created in the image of God. We are communicating stuff all the time. Research shows that 90% of what we say ain't coming out of our mouths. If you think about our body language, like I could say something, and the way I'm standing or the way I deliver it can say everything about what I'm saying. Almost also the tone of voice, the way I communicate it. I could say to somebody, you're really good at that. I can go, mate, you're really, really good at that. The one conveys, I'm not really bothered about telling them that they're really good at that. The other says that I really believe in what I'm saying. We also communicate without speaking an awful lot through text. Like I don't, when I'm writing a text, like speak it out loud, I will be home in 10 minutes. Like that would be ridiculous. The only time I speak it out loud is when I go, Siri, tell my wife I'll be home in 10 minutes. We also use emojis, don't we? I use the laughing, the like crying laughing emoji all the time. And most of the time, I'm just like that. But I send the crying laughing, even though it's not really made me even like laugh out loud. We use emojis all the time to help us communicate. I'm a big fan of GIFs. GIFs are brilliant. I send GIFs all the time. They communicate how I'm feeling, what I want to say. Sometimes GIFs are brilliant. I'm a huge fan of them. We communicate in so many different ways, and we are created in the image of God. If we have that many different ways to communicate, how many other ways does God have to communicate with us? You see, when people say that they heard God speak or God spoke to them, what they're saying is God communicated with them. God shared something with them. I want to be honest with you, I've never heard the audible voice of God. I've never been sat in my room and God go, Andy. Like that has never happened to me. But I have heard God communicate with me. I have heard God speak to me, not in an audible voice, but in different ways. You see, I can't confirm God's accent. I can't tell you that God's got a Scouse accent, although he probably has, because all the best holy people are from Liverpool. But I can't pick God's voice out of a Justin Bieber track. But you see, the way God speaks to me is often through my conscience, through a thought that drops into my head that seems to be right when I'm maybe praying for somebody and a thought process or a picture comes into my mind. That's God speaking to me. He's not going, Andy, I want you to say this. He's dropping things into my mind, and he's dropping things into my thoughts. You know, have you ever felt impacted or felt touched by the words of somebody from cruise or in a talk at Threads? If you've ever felt like when somebody's been talking about God and it's really spoken to you, that's God speaking to you. That's God speaking through somebody. Have you ever liked the words of a song, and you've heard the words of a song and they've perfectly summed up how you feel? Whether it doesn't have to be a worship song, it could have been a secular song. I totally believe that is God communicating to you. You know, if you ever read the Bible and something is just like, bang, that is exactly what I needed to hear, that's God speaking to you. That's like God sending you a text and going, you need to hear this, you're going to read it. Have you ever been reminded of a story of God's faithfulness, or when you've been struggling with something and you've just remembered something that actually, I'm struggling with this, but the last time I struggled with this, God did that, and you've been reminded of it? That's God communicating with you. Have you ever had a dream where you feel like you've met God? I've had dreams in the past where God has spoken to me. God communicates in so many different ways. And I think the interesting thing is how do you know it's God? You might have just heard me say, often it's through my conscience or my thoughts. How do I know that that's God? Now, in a few sessions ago, I talked about we confuse certainty with confidence. I'm never 100% certain that it's God, but I'm often quite confident. And my confidence builds when I step out. See, when I pray for someone and I feel like God gives me a picture, my confidence builds when I share that picture and they go, yeah, do you know what, that's really right. That's really what I needed to hear, or yeah, that really speaks into this situation. And my confidence builds that I am hearing from God. And what I do when I have these pictures, or when I think that God might be speaking to me, is that I pray. I say, God, is this you? Can you help me understand whether it is you? I line it up with what God says. You know, if I prayed for somebody and they said, and I had this thought that they were going to get killed tomorrow, like, I don't think God would communicate that. God wouldn't say that. You know, I wouldn't pray for someone and get the thought that they're an idiot. Like, that's not what God would say. I line it up with the character of God. I line it up with who God says he is, with what it says in the Bible. And if it lines up, if it sounds like something God would say, I go with it. You see, I really 100% believe that God speaks to us today. I believe that some of you who have answered, I don't know, that has God spoken to you? I believe that God has spoken to you. I believe that if you're not a Christian, I believe that God can speak to you. God 100% speaks today, and he's speaking to you right now. What might God want to say to you? What do you need to hear from God? You're going to spend some time now in your cruise listening to God, because God's speaking. It's about whether we are listening to him. So you're going to spend some time in your cruise now listening for God to speak to us. Boom.
Meu amor, posso apenas o que Deus me